of the screencast, we will focus on creating a process package in Uniface Flow. This package contains all the objects that we need to define a business process. Please note that during deployment, you may have more than one version of this package. So let's start by creating a new top-level package called Order Process Package. Now that we have our top-level process package, we can create our compound process within it. We'll call it the order process. The order process will be executed by the Acme organization. To make the organization known to the process, we have to include the organization package in a process package. We are now ready to model our order process. We do this by selecting the order process in the Director pane. In the modeling area, we can see the start and end points of the process are displayed. On the left-hand side of the modeling area, we can see various tools for modeling business process. We have a selection tool, zoom tool, comment tool, which allows us to create comments on process model, manual task tool, batch task tool, which is a non-interactive task executed by the workflow engine, interactive task tool, which allows us to implement software components into the business process, compound process tool, which allows us to create sub-processes within process, and split tool, which allows us to branch the process into parallel processing, and join tool, which joins these units, condition tool, which allows us to create conditions within the process, and or join tool, which allows us to join these conditions. Abort tool, which allows us to abort the process at any particular point. Business-to-business message tool, which allows us to send messages between the processes. Expression tool sets various variables within the process. Recurring initiation tool, which allows us to start the process at any particular point in time that we specify in this tool. And the flow tool that allows us to join the tasks in a particular order. For the purpose of this demonstration, we'll only focus on the business process itself, and for that purpose we'll only use manual task tool. A manual task is performed by a user without an associated software component. Despite having no software implementation, a manual task can be used in a process model with parameters and process variables, and it is an extremely useful tool for testing the actual process and not implementation. So let's start by creating one and rename it to Enter Order. We'll create one called Approve Order, and one called Ship Order. Now I need to combine these three tasks into the process, and for that I need to define the process flow, and I do this by using the Flow tool. Enter Order is the first task in our process. Each process is started by the appropriate event, in this case a customer who contacts a salesperson with a request to place an order. Because the execution of this first task is launched by an event, it is defined as a user-driven task. We do this by selecting the Properties Inspector window for the Enter Order task, and we'll set the driven by property of this particular task to be user. To verify the completeness of the initial process definition, we can check the process model. I can do this by checking the consistency of our order process. As a result of this action, we can see that the error messages appear because the tasks are not yet assigned to actors. So let's close the consistency check report and invoke the property inspector of the enter order task, and we'll go now to the assignment tab. I'll select the option for all actors in a unit, and for our Acme organization I'll select the sales unit. This basically means that any person assigned to the sales department within Acme organization will be able to execute this particular task. I'll now repeat the process for the approve order task. I'll leave the type of the assignment to all actors with role in a unit, and for the roles I'll select the finance manager, and for the unit I'll select the finance department. This basically means that all the finance managers within the finance department will be able to execute this particular task. And the last, for the ship order, I'll just assign it to the actor Jim, who we know from the previous screencast is allocated to the warehouse department. Now I'll check the consistency again of our process, and we can see on the consistency check report that there are no further errors. This basically means that our business process is ready for deployment. We can now close the consistency check and save the process model. Now we are ready to test our process. Before I start testing, I need to start the responsible engines for the execution of this process. I do this from the server console by starting the appropriate Uniface flow services. To start testing the process, I need to start a task console for each one of our users. So I'll start one for our actor Boris. One for the actor Dave, who's our finance manager. And one for the actor Jim, who works in a warehouse. I'll rearrange these task consoles so we can see all three of them at the same time. For the new tasks, we can see that only actor Boris can see enter order task. This is because Boris belongs to the sales department, and if you remember, we defined enter order task only to the sales department. Actors Dave and Jim cannot see those user-driven tasks. So Boris is now ready to kickstart the process. We do this by clicking on the start button, and this is the first task enter order. In real life, obviously this would be a software component where the user, Boris, would be entering the order details. But as we are testing only the process, not the implementation, this is sufficient for now. Once Boris executes and completes the task, from our process model we know the task needs to be assigned to the finance manager to the approval. So we should see the task appearing in a Dave's task console. And it has. Here's the task approve order. Dave will now execute his part of the task. Again, no software implementation, we only testing the process. Once the task is executed and completed, the workflow engine will take over and do the assignment to the warehouse as per our defined process. And here it is. Ship order task appears in a Jim's to-do list. Jim will now, in real life, ship the order and say, I'm completed with this particular task. And this completes our process instance.